Hello, hello, and welcome to the themoannaadams podcast, where we talk all things travel, wellness, and teenage girl. I'm your host, Moana, a full-time travel teen. I have a great episode for you this week, so let's get into it. Hello, hello. I hope that you are having a wonderful day today because we are talking about creating a 5-year plan, and I'm giving you a step-by-step guide on this. Now, disclaimer, I am 15, so take that information how you will, but let's just go ahead and get into it. I am currently recording from Maine. I recorded episodes 7 and 10 already today, and now I'm recording episode 9. Don't ask questions. I operate in a weird way. Trust the chaos. But we are talking about 5-year plans, which I have created one, and it is awesome, and I'm going to pull it up while I am sharing my grateful and currently loving, which I do not have prepared for you today. I normally write it down before I start, so I'm ready, but decided to wing it. I am grateful. Honestly, I'm grateful for my laptop. It used to be Smommy's, and if you don't know what that word means, it means stepmom. She has been in my life for, ever. So, we don't really use the S word, the stepmom word, but we use smom and smommy and smother and smama. It's something that I don't really know exactly who coined it. I think it was me and her, just together, we worked together, but I've been calling her that since I was 4 years old, or maybe a little bit later than that, but it used to be her computer, and now it's mine, and I love it. It's a MacBook Pro. I don't know which one, I don't really know the technical things, but originally I wanted an iPad, and I got this, and I love it. So let's get into hold on. Wow, I'm really all over the place, so enjoy a chaotic Moana in today's episode. But what I am currently loving is, what am I currently loving? Notion. I might have used this in another episode, but I love Notion. Notion and I are best friends because I used to keep all of my lists and things on the Notes app and Minimalist, which is an app on your phone that I'm guessing you can get on most devices, but I still use both of those and I love them, but Notion is the queen, and my parents made fun of me for it because when they first started their business they used Notion, and now they use ClickUp, and ClickUp is a ultra version, and it's very complicated to me, so Notion is the one that I use and I love it. I have a ridiculous amount of lists and I'm extremely organized, but I've got calendars, and it's awesome for the podcast and working on content, and I love it. So I love Notion. If you are a student, or if you work, or if you don't do anything with your life, no matter what, you can use it, I'm sure. I highly suggest you go check it out. But let's get into the bulk of the episode. It has an outline, so it won't be as chaotic, I promise. The bulk of the episode, creating a 5-year plan, step-by-step guide. But before we get into the step-by-step, let's kind of talk about why. What's the point? Why do I create a 5-year plan? Why is it necessary? And why create one as a teenager? Don't I just have to go to school and, complete my assignments and do whatever else teenagers do? I don't know. What do we do? Somebody let me know, because I don't know what a normal teenager does on a daily basis. But why am I creating this 5-year plan? Number 1, it keeps you goal motivated. For me, I am homeschooled, so it's definitely easier for me to have the time to work on things like content creation and podcasting. But I know that even when I was homeschooling before I had my plan, it was really hard for me to get anywhere with anything because I wasn't confident in my plans, and I wasn't quite sure. I hadn't made any decisions quite yet. I knew kind of what I wanted, but I just wasn't sure. And so I have a sticky note in front of me when I record that says breathe, because I talk very quickly, and it reminds me that I also have to breathe when I record. So I needed to move it because I wasn't seeing it where I was looking. But another reason why you should create a 5-year plan is it helps those around you and your support system understand what you want. Now, it's definitely optional, but I would suggest after you create your plan is to share it with someone. Obviously, as a teenager, I would suggest sharing it with your parents, but sometimes that's hard. Some people don't have as strong of a relationship with their parents. And even for me, I'm very close with all 3 of my parents. It still was really hard for me to share it with them. So even if it's not your parents, a friend, a sibling, a grandparent, someone, share it with them, because A, it's going to help you stay a little bit accountable, and it's going to allow them to support you and understand what you want. Share it with someone you trust, not someone random. Be very particular about who you choose, because some people, even if it's not intentional, not everyone believes in you, and you may not realize it until you share something like this with them, that they don't. But just be particular, be picky about who you share it with. And it also opens up new opportunities, because like I said, it keeps you goal motivated. So you're working towards these things, and you learn and you realize, and you're connected to new people and new things that you wouldn't have been before. And I'll get into a little bit like how that happens, but I'm going to leave it at that. And when should you make it? Right now. You should make it right this second. You should get out your notes app, get out a piece of paper, and write down some notes while I'm talking, because you need a 5-year plan. I made mine right when I turned, right after my 15th birthday. So that was really good timing for me. And if you're a perfectionist and you want like the timing to be proper, if you're a teenager, I would suggest making the years based off your birthday, because a lot of things depend on your age, right? When you can drive, for me, when I can get my lifeguarding license, or certification, not license. That's one of my goals, is to be a certified lifeguard, because A, it interests me, and 2, I love swimming and spending time by the water, and a lot of people drown every year in national parks and all over the world, of course, but the places that I spend a lot of time, there's a high chance of someone in that area drowning, and I want to be prepared and understand what to do in that situation. So that's one of my goals. So if you base it off your birthday as a teenager, I would. But if not, I would say base it off the normal calendar year, because if not, it could get really confusing. And maybe if it's, March or February when you're listening to this, base it off January 1st that just passed. So if it's, let's say you're listening to this on February 23rd, 2023. Start your first year in your 5-year plan on January 1st, 2023, and move from there. It'll help you keep it a little bit more organized and less confusing, because it definitely can be a little confusing. So let's get into the step-by-step. And like I said, you might want some paper or pull up your notes app, but the first step is to write every single dream, every single goal or bucket list item, or anything you can come up with that you want to accomplish in your lifetime. Big, small, it doesn't matter. How crazy it is, write it down on a piece of paper, list it out, mind map it, however your brain works. Write it down. Don't censor yourself. Every single thing. If you want to join a circus for a year and ride on top of an elephant, write it down. I mean everything. Every single goal or dream that you want to accomplish in your lifetime, not just in the 5 years, in your lifetime. One of the big ones for me was to learn a lot of languages, to become a polyglot. I think it's how you pronounce it. I've said it before, but I'm really bad at pronunciation, so I think it's polyglot. And that is being fluent in, I think it's 5 or more languages. And so that's a big dream of mine. Difficult one, but definitely something I want to accomplish in my lifetime. So that's a good example of something that you might want to write down. That's the first step. That's all you got to do. Write them all down. Then the second thing you're going to do is add a date to every single one of those dreams. Every single one of them, add a date. I want to accomplish this by whichever date it is, and make it realistic, but a little bit challenging, right? Don't make it next week, but don't make it 30 years from now either. Unless it is something that has to be, needs that much time. But I'm assuming majority of the things within the next 5 to 10 years will have the possibility of being done. And then once you do that, you want to write a quick list of steps that it would take to get there. So For example, if in 5 years I want to save $5,000, that's going to be $1,000 a year, and that's going to be $83 a month, right? So those little, it gets smaller and smaller, the steps. Or if I want to be a polyglot, I need to, in 5 years, I want to learn 5 languages. I'm going to need to write, all right, the first year, I want to be fluent in ASL. In the second year, I want to be fluent in Spanish, right? So you're just listing those things. And then in order to become fluent in ASL that first year, I need to study this many hours a week. Or, right? You get the idea. So you're going to make that list of quick steps, not quick, but quick list of steps that it would take to get there, to get you to that goal. Now, you're going to create a timeline. You can write it down or make one digitally. Personally, mine was on a Google Slides, and you're going to add a dot on the timeline every 6 months to a year. You can choose. Personally, I did mine. I'm going to pull it up so I can kind of explain it a little bit better. I did mine on a Google Slides, and you can go to Insert and add a timeline and add 5 markers. And that's what I did for the 5 years. But really, it's up to you, and you know yourself best. You know how you learn and how you see things and how your brain organizes things. So choose what works for you. But that's what I did. And then you're going to add each goal that's within the 5 years to that marker. So, for example, for me, if it was to, let's use climbing is a good example for me. My fitness goals in climbing are to send a certain grade or a certain, I can't think of the word, difficulty, a certain difficulty each year. It's my goal to send, aka complete, a climbing route that is that specific difficulty. So I've been climbing for, I want to say 6 months now. And so by the time I turn 16, I want to send a V4, which is, it's like out of, I think the highest is like a V17 right now. So I want to send a V4 bouldering route by the time I turn 16. Then by the time I turn 17, I want to send a V6, and so on. And obviously this is going to be different for you, but that's kind of a good example of putting them in a realistic but challenging spot. Once you get those on the timeline, you're going to add, for example, for me, for the Google Slides, you're going to add a slide, and per dot. So per year, you're going to add a slide, and you're going to go into more detail about the steps that you wrote down for each goal. So let's say for year 1, I want to send a V4. So I'm going to write all of my goals in each area of my life that I wrote down, right? Because obviously all the dreams and goals that you wrote down at the beginning, they're going to be in different positions in your life. Some may be fitness, some may be relationships, some may be business, or some may be travel and adventure, or some may be education. So generally I like to keep 1 to 2, mostly 1, some of them have 2. I think my education probably has 2 or 3, but 1 to 2 is probably the sweet spot. Goals each year. And obviously these are big goals, right? It's not something you can do in a month. It's probably going to take a year to do. And each page you're going to list those things, and then you're going to make bullet points under those saying the steps. So, for example, for mine, for the climbing, in year 1, I wanted to send a V4, right? So, in order for me, I think that in order to do that, I'd have to go to the gym twice a week. If I go to the gym 2 times a week and I'm working hard and I'm staying consistent, I think that I can send a V4 by the end of the year. Or if it's the money that I said earlier, I want to save $5,000 in those 5 years. The first year I want to save $1,000. In order to save that $1,000, I need to save $83 a month. I'm going to make that money by doing this, right? And then once you have all of those things jotted down, you're pretty much done. Make sure you add some details, and then a couple of little bonus things that I suggest adding to your 5-year plan is fun things. Don't keep it too, I don't want to say boring, but add adventurous things. Like, for example, I want to go skydiving. So I put that on my goals. Also include your priorities and the things you value or your principles, aka the things that are important to you. So one of mine is balance. For example, eating. 80-20 is a very popular thing now. I think it is, at least, in the wellness and lifestyle niche. Is something important to me is balance. Or things that I appreciate is loyalty, or I want to continue my education, not just in school, but I want to have my lifeguard license. I want to learn evasive driving. What's another good example? I want to have my CPR and first aid training, right? So that's my continued education. I want to continue my education. I want to learn new things every single day. So maybe write down your values, your principles, your priorities, whatever you call it. Get those on paper so you can see them. And it's great to share those with someone else. Which leads me into, what do you do with your plan once it's ready? You have this document or this stack of papers with your goals, your planning for the next 5 years of your life. What are you going to do with it? Like I said earlier, share it with someone. But again, not just anyone and not everyone. Your number one supporters are the only people who should see this. Not people who will judge you for what you want or tell you can't do it. And if you can't find anyone, I would be glad if you send it to me, because I promise you I won't judge yours. I've already shared pieces of mine that I never thought I would with someone else. But message it on Instagram to @themoannaadams podcast. Send it to me if you don't feel comfortable sharing it with anybody else. You can also use it to track your progress. So, like I said with the climbing, maybe I send a V4 before I even thought I could. Or maybe I got sick, maybe I got injured. It's helping me track my progress and where I am in my goals and what comes next. And use it as motivation. Look at it often. Remember why you're doing the things that you're doing on a day-to-day. Use it. Inspire yourself to get up, to work towards those things, and check things off that list. But don't obsess over where you put each goal, because life happens and things will have to be shifted. Things are already shifting for me. I didn't think I was going to have my podcast until at least a year from now. Maybe not that far. 6 months, maybe a year. It's closer to a year. But I did not think I was going to have this podcast this soon. And I do. That has definitely pushed me forward a little bit. Or I have not gotten to get into the gym nearly as much as I wish I could, because we're traveling so much. There's not always gyms. There's not always opportunities for me to climb. So my climbing has kind of been set back, and I've had to move things around, right? So don't get too attached to the dates, because things will happen faster and slower than you think they will. And that's okay. You have time to complete these things, right? Life is short, but it's not that short. You've got time. You don't have to rush too much. But don't be lazy either. There's a balance. There's a balance for everything, and you just have to find it. I think that's all I have for you today. I hope that you use this ranty, step-by-step guide of mine to create your own 5-year plan and get your life in order. Get it together and figure out what you want and use it to your advantage. Thank you so much for listening. Be sure to give this podcast a rate and review, as well as follow me on all my socials linked in the show notes. Don't forget to drink some water, and I'll talk to you later.